In the grand halls of 18th century European philosophy, a world dominated by figures like Kant, Voltaire, and Rousseau, there's a name that history almost forgot, yet one that deserves to be celebrated. This is the story of Anton Wilhelm Amo, the first known black African to earn a PhD from a European university and become a respected philosopher and professor in Germany. His journey is a powerful testament to intellect, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge against all odds. So, who was Anton Wilhelm Amo? He was born around 1703 in Ngubim, near Axum, in what is now modern-day Ghana. His early life is shrouded in some mystery, but we know that at a very young age, perhaps around 4 years old, he was taken to Amsterdam. It's important to clarify how this happened. While some accounts use the word slavery, his situation was more complex. He was presented as a gift to Duke Anton Ulrich of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel and brought to his palace in Germany. This might sound strange to us now, but in the courts of Europe at the time, it was a status symbol to have African children, often called Kammermohren or chamber Moors, serving as court attendants. They were seen as exotic symbols of power and wealth. However, Amo's fate was different from many others in similar positions. The Duke and his son, August Wilhelm, saw something special in the young boy. Instead of just being a court servant, they decided to give him a formal education. Amo was baptized and given his European names, Anton Wilhelm, after his patrons. He was educated alongside the Duke's own children, learning languages, sciences, and the arts. He proved to be an exceptionally gifted student. His intellect was so apparent that the Duke's family supported his entry into higher education, a path almost unheard of for a person of African descent in Europe at that time. His academic journey began at the University of Halle in 1727. Halle was a center of the early Enlightenment in Germany, a place buzzing with new ideas about reason, logic, and human rights. It was the perfect environment for a mind like Amo's. His first public academic work was a legal dissertation in 1729 titled Rights of Moors in Europe. Sadly, the full text of this work has been lost to history. But just think about the title. Here was a young African man in a German university legally arguing for the rights of black people in Europe. It was a bold, revolutionary act. He argued that African kings had historically been granted rights and titles by Roman emperors, and that these rights should still be recognized. He was using European legal history to advocate for his people. After Halle, Amo moved to the prestigious University of Wittenberg, the same university where Martin Luther had famously posted his 95 Theses. It was here, in 1734, that Amo earned his Doctor of Philosophy degree. His doctoral dissertation is a masterpiece of philosophical thought that we are lucky to still have. Its title is On the Absence of Sensation in the Human Mind and Its Presence in Our Organic and Living Body. Let's break that down because it's a fascinating idea. Amo was diving deep into what we now call the mind-body problem. Philosophers like René Descartes had argued that the mind, or the soul, was a purely thinking, non-physical thing, completely separate from the physical body. Amo disagreed. He argued that it is the body, the physical, living, organic part of us, that feels sensations like pain, pleasure, and touch. The mind, he proposed, is what processes these sensations and turns them into ideas. This was a sophisticated argument that placed him right in the middle of the most important philosophical debates of his era. He was not just repeating ideas. He was contributing original thought. He was a materialist philosopher, emphasizing the importance of the physical body in our experience of the world. He was challenging the established dualism of Descartes and offering a new, nuanced perspective. After earning his PhD, Amo became a lecturer, a professor. He taught at the universities of Halle and later Jena. Imagine his students in the 1730s and 1740s learning philosophy from a black professor from West Africa. He published another work, a book on logic and the art of philosophizing clearly and accurately, further cementing his reputation as a serious scholar. For nearly 20 years, Anton Wilhelm Amo was a celebrated intellectual figure in Germany, but his story takes a tragic turn. The world around him was changing. The intellectual curiosity of the early Enlightenment began to give way to a more rigid, pseudo-scientific racism. The very people who had once celebrated his intellect started to view him more through the lens of his race. His patrons, the dukes who had protected and supported him, passed away. He faced increasing prejudice and hostility. There are accounts of him being mocked in public plays and facing social ridicule. The academic environment that had once welcomed him became colder. The exact details of his final years in Germany are sparse, but we know the cumulative effect of this racism, coupled with political instability in the region, took its toll. Sometime around 1747, after about 40 years in Europe, Amo made a monumental decision. He would return home to Ghana. The journey itself must have been incredible, a reverse of the one he had taken as a small child. He returned to the Gold Coast, a man transformed by decades of European education, now re-entering the world of his birth. Back in Ghana, he was once again a figure of note, but in a different way. European records show him living in the region of his birth, described as a man of great respect, and some even called him the astrologer, or the soothsayer, likely a local interpretation of his vast knowledge and wisdom. He was known for his solitude and his skill in multiple languages. It seems he lived the rest of his life there, passing away sometime after 1759. He was buried in Ghana, his final resting place a world away from the German universities, where he had made his name. So why is his story so important? Anton Wilhelm Amo shatters the simplistic narratives we are often told about history. He was a black man who was not a slave, but a philosopher. He was an African who not only mastered European thought, but contributed to it in a meaningful way. His story was largely forgotten for centuries, buried by the very prejudices he fought against. But in the 20th century, scholars, particularly in Ghana and Germany, began to rediscover his work. Today, there's a growing recognition of his importance. The university in Halle, where he first studied, is now named Martin Luther University Halle-Wittenberg, and it has an award named in his honor, the Anton Wilhelm Amo Prize, which recognizes outstanding academic work. Streets are named after him in several German cities. He is being written back into the history of philosophy where he belongs. Anton Wilhelm Amo's life is a story of incredible intellectual achievement, of bridging worlds, and of profound resilience. But it's also a cautionary tale about how prejudice can stifle genius and erase history. By learning and sharing his story, we not only honor a brilliant philosopher, but we also challenge ourselves to look for the other forgotten figures of history and to build a world that, unlike Amo's, truly judges people on the content of their character and the power of their ideas. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as inspiring as I do, please hit the like button, subscribe for more stories from the margins of history,